Hi, dear friends. Thank you so much for joining me today. I wanted to share a story with you, something that I witnessed right this morning while I was on my way to this conference room that I'm sitting in right now. So, I took the bus this morning and it was just a beautiful day, and I was so excited for what I've got planned for the day and everything else. And as soon as I got to the bus stop of my, destination, I was ready to get off, and I heard something. I heard a child crying, like this little 3, 4 year old girl, and I noticed that her mom was yelling at her and hitting her, and it just didn't sit well with me at all. And I got off the bus regardless, and then I continued hearing, these cries from the little girl and the mom going, no, 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 and hitting her. And then they got off the bus. The mom brought the child outside, and then she continued to hit the girl. And at that point, I was like, there's no way I can just stand here and do nothing about it. And then they got on the bus again. At this point, I was like determined, right? So I got on the bus again, and I told her, hey, like, it's not okay for you to hit her. And at this point, I could see the mom got pretty worked up at me. And then she was like, you can't say this to me. This is my child. You're violating a boundary. And I told her, look, if it were some other person hitting you, I would do the same thing. It's not about me not seeing that this is your child. It's about a human rights issue. And hitting is a form of violence. And she was like, she didn't agree with me, obviously, right? And then the bus driver, surprisingly, was present as well. And he goes, well, this is how I discipline my child too. That's how you discipline, children. And I was so like stunned when I heard that. Like, he was a person of authority and he should have been trying to help me here, right? And then she goes, I believe in discipline. I believe God wants us to discipline our children, and this is how you do it. And you don't know what I have to go through day in and day out with my child, and this is my child. You can't tell me what to do. And I continued to insist. I told her, look, I totally get it. I know it's hard to raise a child, and there are moments when they get dysregulated, but at the same time, it's not okay. And she was not in a place where anything I said made sense to her. And I told her, I'm sorry, but I'd have to call the authorities. And she got really worked up over it. And I did call, I did call the police and everything. And I know some of you might not be a fan of what I did. And I'm going to proceed to kind of tell you why I did what I did, right? And I want you to approach this with kind of an open mind. Some of you might share the same perspective as the lady that I spoke to, the mother, and I just want to have an open dialogue about it, right? This is not about you're wrong, I'm right, and I'm going to prove you I'm wrong. Let's all sit down, have a healthy discussion. I see where you're coming from. I come from a place of love and compassion. I have utmost compassion for that lady. I have utmost compassion for the bus driver. I have utmost compassion for the little girl, right? And I want to validate everyone's experiences here. So for those of you who might go, well, that's how you discipline a child. How else is a child going to learn boundaries? And how else are they going to be socialized in the world, right? So I see where you're coming from. Your sponsoring intentions are completely valid. And I am a huge proponent of that as well. I think we should all grow up to be people that consider each other's feelings. We don't want to go about life just doing whatever we want, right? And we want the same for our kids. We want them to know right from wrong. We want them to know what healthy boundaries are. So just imagine you're this little person. Imagine you're just a little person in this little body, and you are learning to work with your emotions, and yet these emotions are so overpowering. And every time, say you want candy, like you just can't help but have like a meltdown over it because you really want this candy. And so you go, no, 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 you're to your parent, and you feel like crying. You want to like, express your emotions. But every time you do that, this person, this parent, who's obviously, when you're a kid, they're like this giant like figure in front of you, right? You're like this little small like child in this little body, and this parent is like so overpowering, and they go and they start hitting you, and they start like saying no, no, no. Like what do you think might be the thought process of the child in that moment? Just approach this with an open mind. What are they thinking about themselves when they're being hit by this like parent that they look up to, this authority figure who's like so tall and so overpowering? What are they learning in that moment? Like, do you want to venture a guess? They're learning, wow, like I'm unsafe right now. I'm unsafe and I'm afraid of my parent. And all these emotions I'm feeling, like I'm having a meltdown, I'm crying, this parent is telling me, no, 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 you're acting up, like stop crying. It's telling me my emotions are bad, right? Like this part of me, my emotions are unacceptable, and I'm getting shamed for them, which means that this part of me is bad. And this need that I have, say for instance, the kid wanted candy, right? Say, they had a need. This need, any need that I have is bad, and it's going to get me beaten. It's going to get me, like be ashamed of myself, because it's not okay for me to like have needs. It's not okay for me to like express my emotions. So that's what the kid is learning. The kid is not learning, oh, well, this is a bad time to have candy. There are better times, like maybe after I've eaten or something like that. So even if from a parent's perspective, even if you're going, well, I need my child to learn healthy boundaries. I need them to know that there are only certain acceptable times when it's okay for them to have candy. If that's what you want your kid to learn, you're actually not achieving that end goal with hitting, because the hitting is just teaching the child to develop a negative self-concept. They're learning that they're bad as a person, that they're not lovable, they're not worthy, and that the parent is someone they can't trust, because one time they are, extremely loving to them, and the next time, who knows, they start hitting them. So they're learning that the world is unpredictable, and they're also not getting trained in how to set healthy boundaries with themselves, for instance. Now consider like a parallel case where the parent goes, okay, I see that you want candy, and I know you're upset, and the kid cries over it, and the parent allows the kid to express their emotions, to express their disappointment. Don't we all get disappointed at times when we don't get what we want? And what if someone shamed us for that? What if someone shamed us for having us express disappointment over maybe like if our car broke down, right? We are going to be frustrated. And so the kid has to be allowed to be frustrated. For them, the candy is a big deal, or whatever it is that they're wanting right in that moment. So they have to be allowed to express their frustration. Maybe they want to cry. Maybe they get a little bit loud, and that's okay. You can still validate their emotions. You can still tell them, hey, I see that you're frustrated. You really wanted this candy, or you really wanted to go to maybe the park, and we're not able to go to the park today. And I see that. And the moment you validate a kid's emotions, you allow them to express themselves, what you're going to notice is the child is going to be able to access their prefrontal cortex better. Because when a child is dysregulated, it's really a nervous system response that they're in. They're not able to reason with anyone. They're just in this state where their amygdala is activated. The amygdala is like a primitive part of the brain. So they're not going to be able to reason with you anyways. They're not going to learn discipline from you anyways, because that part of their brain is not active at the time. So for you to get the best case result, for you to be most effective in disciplining them, you would have to get the child to access their prefrontal cortex, which is the rational part of the brain which can reason things, right? So for you to be able to help them access that part of the brain, you have to validate their emotions. you have to help co-regulate, like offer them co-regulation. And when your nervous system is in a state of calm, like you might get dysregulated. Like I'm not saying that parents have to be perfect at all times. You might get dysregulated, but when you are able to move through that dysregulation and provide safety, provide regulation to the child when they're having a tantrum, their nervous system, their body co-regulates with your body. And so they're able to access some of that calm from you, right? And an emotion, if you really think about it, is like a wave, right? When you let your kid ride that wave of emotion, it goes up and then it comes back down. So they might get really dysregulated, they might get really tense. And when you offer them co-regulation, they're able to move through that emotion and they're able to come down. And you still hold that boundary, right? We're not here telling anyone that, hey, like you have to give your kid everything that they ask for. No, not at all. We do want to, discipline, right? We do want to have them, give them the ability to be self-disciplined. So you tell them, hey, let's make a plan, like to get candy or to go to the park of your choice tomorrow. Today we have to get these errands done. Maybe that's what, the child was experiencing at the time. She wanted to go somewhere. Her mom was like, no, we can't go there. You can't go to the park. Like you can't be, you can't express your frustration over it. So when you do that as a parent, or as an older person, when you validate the child's emotions, when you let them move through the emotion, you allow them to finally get calm and you allow them to work with you, right? You problem solve with them. You tell them, okay, like I see that you want to really want to go to the park. We can't go today. That's like a no-go. And I see that you're frustrated. How about we make a plan to go next Saturday, right? And you're working with the child, and the child, now that they're able to access their prefrontal cortex, they're going, okay, let's, how can we please go, next Saturday? And how about today? Can we just while we're on our, while we're doing errands, can I just stop, at the park closer to the grocery store where we're headed? Like, the point of this is you're working with the child to collaborate with you, right? You're teaching them healthy collaborative skills. You're teaching them like problem solving skills. So that is how you discipline a child. I'm sure as a parent, you want a long-term solution, right? You don't want a Band-Aid solution where you're just like hitting the child. Sure, the child is going to shut up like in 2 seconds, but that's just Band-Aid. And the next thing you know, they're going to be so dysregulated, their nervous system is going to be in this fight-flight mode that next time around, they're going to have like a bigger meltdown because they're constantly in this fight-flight mode. Right? So you want to work with your child to have this long-term sustainable solution where your kid trusts that, okay, my parent sees my need, my parent validates my emotions, they understand that I get frustrated and that it's okay for me to get frustrated, and at the same time I can I can set these boundaries with myself, even like, for say the kid grows up and they really want to grow in their career and they want to have this healthy routine and they feel like going to party all the time, right? And they are because they got disciplined the way they did as a child, whether emotions got validated and their needs got seen and met, as an adult, when they're by themselves, when they're, say, in college or they're, like working or something, and they want to set goals for themselves, but they feel like drinking a lot maybe or partying and wasting their time, instead of shaming themselves, instead of going, well, I'm this terrible person who just wants to have fun all the time, they're going to validate their own emotions. They're going to collaborate with themselves and go, okay, I see that I have needs for fun. I see that I want to do things with my friends. At the same time, I have these goals. How can I collaborate with myself? How can I come up with come to myself with this problem solving perspective and come up with this plan where I make space for all of my needs, right? So, and this is so great because it works for the child in the long run, like the long haul, even as they're adults. Because the reality is you can't shame yourself into growth. You can't shame yourself into discipline. The only sure shot way of sustainable personal growth, sustainable discipline, sustainable self-improvement is through the route of love, is through through the route of compassion, compassionate curiosity. And that's when you learn how to really grow in a way that's healthy, right? Because the way we got spoken to as children, right, is how we end up speaking to ourselves. Our internal dialogue is our internalized dialogue. So imagine like this kid grows up and they, they're in college and, they are maybe getting frustrated over something. Maybe they went through like a heartbreak and they are feeling all of these emotions. Now their earliest associations with emotions were like shame, right? Because they got shamed by their parents for having like a big feeling or a big emotion. Now when they're feeling frustrated as an adult over something as big as like maybe a breakup or a separation, they're going to shame their own emotions. They're going to be harsh on themselves. They're going to even maybe get into like self-harm behavioral tendencies. And we know so many adults, right, like who self-harm when they are going through something really like something really horrible in their personal lives, because they go, I can't believe why I can't just get over this, right? And they punish themselves. And where do you think this comes from? This comes from their earliest environment, from their the way they got conditioned when they were having an emotional experience in their childhood. So I know that this is a lot to process, but if you're a parent watching this, if you are someone who is a teacher maybe and who deals with kids a lot, and you are a firm believer in like discipline and corporal punishment because you see that the kids actually like listen to you, they only listen to you when you hit them, I see where you're coming from. But I hope through what I just like kind of went over, I hope you're able to see things from another perspective, right? When you hit the child, you instill fear in them, like I said, and I was that child. This is a very personal and vulnerable share for me. As a child, I was in a school system where like corporal punishment was okay, where kids were allowed, where teachers were allowed to hit the kids, and I got hit more than a few times. And I can't tell you how much I hated, like internally, I hated going to school. I just thought I was a terrible person, because what kind of person gets hit, right? You have to be terrible to deserve that. And that was my self-concept. And I wanted so bad to please my parents, to please my teachers. I started masking. I started wearing a mask. I started becoming this people pleaser who was like, okay, I would do anything I can to make my teacher happy. If it makes her happy, I'm doing it, because that's how I get love from her, right? That's how I can make sure that I don't get hit by her. And so I would just be this like super nice person, especially in school. I learned to study extra hard, right? Which is a good thing. I think a lot of parents would say, well, that it worked in your favor. You worked really hard, you got good grades, which I did. Yes, I worked really hard because I wanted to impress my teachers. I wanted to prove it to them. Look, I'm not that kid who deserves to be hit. I am someone who can do well in life, and I want you to see that. But that came from a place of extremely low self-worth. My self-worth was tied with how much validation I got from the external world, from my teachers. So I would like pull all-nighters. I would shame myself for any mistakes I made, even if I got like 2 marks off. Like we had this system where we didn't have grades, but we had like actual marks, right? So we got like, so you would get like 100 marks if you like aced the exam. That's like 100 points. And if I got like 2 less, if I just got like a 98 or a 99, I would like shame myself endlessly. I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm such a terrible person. I couldn't like make the mark. And that was because that's how my teachers um, instilled discipline in me, right? They were extremely harsh. They were extremely critical. They would they would hit me at times. And so I learned that the only way to discipline myself was to be very harsh in the relationship to myself. And then fast forward, when I was 19 years old, I think, when I was a teenager, I'd put on a lot of weight. And then at 18, 19, I was in college and I wasn't doing well in school. There were like too many changes, and it wasn't because I was not disciplined or motivated. I was very motivated, but I didn't have the right strategies. So I would constantly shame myself. I would constantly tell myself, there's something wrong with me. I'm not doing things right, which is why I'm not making the grade here. And then I was like, on top of that, I put on so much weight. So let me just stop eating. And that's how I thought was, I should discipline myself, was to like engage in self-harm, engage in self-destructive behaviors. And so I didn't eat for like a month or something, and I had lost so much weight, and people would obviously validate me. Like they would be like, oh my gosh, you've lost so much weight, and tell us what you did. And no one knew what was going on behind closed doors. It was me just being this super like this really strict person, this really strict authority figure in the relationship to myself. And I obviously couldn't sustain that for too long, right? You can't just engage in self-harm for too long until you maybe you face a health challenge or you encounter burnout. And that's what happened to me. I was only able to be in that self corporal punishment mode for like maybe a year or two max. And then after that, I burnt out. I was like, I cannot do this. I would much rather not be alive, because this is I can't do this. I literally told myself, I cannot do this. Life is too hard. And over time, thankfully, I was able to kind of get it on a healing journey. And I learned, and it took a while for me to learn this, is like that I could love myself. I could give myself compassion. I could make room for my needs and also work on self-improvement, also work on achieving my goals in life. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was when you experience or encounter corporal punishment as a kid, when you are maybe say hit or you're yelled at a lot, you get criticized a lot, you don't pick up on red flags later in life when other people do that to you. Say, for instance, when you're in a romantic situation, you go out into the dating world and say this person is really critical, or maybe they even like raise their hand, or they hit you. That's going to feel normal to you because that's what you experienced growing up. So it's not going to send off all of those red flag signals. And is that what you want for your child? Like when you are no longer around your child, when they're out of the home, don't you want your child to have this healthy sense of self and be able to pick up on red flags and go, okay, this person is not treating me right. They're being harsh and critical, and that's not how I treat myself. That's not how I got treated by my parents. And so I'm going to set a boundary with this new person that I'm dating, and I'm going to not even invest in a relationship like that. Don't you want that for your children? So I hope that this has helped kind of broaden your perspective a little bit. I hope this has shown you that there is a different way of disciplining your child. And I know that it's not mainstream knowledge. It's going to require some work, but the work is going to be so worth it. Like learning how to co-regulate with your child, right? Helping your child co-regulate with you, how to validate their emotions. And all of this is like kind of a new set of skills that you might want to develop. And I really think it's going to be so worth it. And I want to invite you to kind of get on that journey. And I think when you are doing that work, you'll also notice that you will start noticing how you treat yourself in the relationship to yourself, right? And you will go back to, oh, I bully myself. I'm harsh with myself when I make mistakes, because that's how my parents or the teacher in elementary school, that's how she treated my mistakes, and that's how she would discipline me. And so I'm going to be better in the relationship to myself. And you start reparenting yourself, and that's how you heal the relationship to yourself. And when you do that, beautiful byproduct of that is you're able to make more room, you're able to hold space for your child's emotions. Your child's emotions are going to trigger you to the extent that your own emotions trigger you. Okay, so if you tend to numb out your own emotions, if you tend to disregard and suppress your own emotions and suppress your own like anger or let it out in unhealthy ways, you're going to deal with your child's emotions the same way. So I think the best way to be able to be a great parent for that child in front of you is to be a great parent to your inner child, which is like that little version of you who's still on the inside, who's still like kind of, who still gets worked up maybe when an old wound gets touched or when an old trigger is set off. So I would invite you to work on healing that relationship with your inner child. Work on your past childhood trauma and your childhood, on the childhood wounds that you acquired. Maybe it was a negative self-concept that you acquired. Maybe you have wounds like, I am bad, or I am weak if I have emotions. I'm bad if I make mistakes. I am, worthy of shame if I do something that's off the mark. So when you are able to offer compassion to all those parts of you, compassion automatically starts flowing through you. And I say this from experience because that's what I did. I worked on myself. I've been working on myself for the last 3 years. I've been doing a lot of inner child work, and I'm noticing that I'm able to hold space for, say my nephews, when they get dysregulated, when they have like all of these meltdowns. I'm really able to see what's going on for them, and I don't take it personally. A lot of parents, because they have old wounds from childhood, like say they were really disrespected by a parent, and so they have this I'm disrespected core wound. And when a child maybe say has a tantrum or says no to them, they have this overreaction because this core wound within them is triggered, that, oh my gosh, my parents disrespected me, and look, my child is disrespecting me now. And so they react in anger. And all this is happening subconsciously. It's not like a conscious process. So I would invite you to work on your own healing. And it's going to be such a beautiful journey for you and also for your child. And the other thing, I have some notes here, so I'm going to go back and make sure that I cover everything, because I literally just got off the bus. Like, this happened less than an hour ago, and I was like, I have to make a video about this. I want to like share this with the world. I want to stop this from happening, and not from a place of like, I don't want to shame that parent. I don't want to shame the bus driver. I have compassion for them, like I said, but I want this to be like a cultural shift. I feel like culturally this is so acceptable that the alarm bells don't even go off. Like, there were so many other people on that bus, and I was appalled. I was like, I can't believe no one is even like reacting like a little bit to this. Like, this is atrocious. This is so morally wrong. Like, if it was two adults, maybe someone would have batted an eye, like someone would have like maybe spoken up. I hope, if it were like this large person attacking like a smaller person, I'm sure someone would have spoken up. I'm sure the bus driver would have said something. But just because it's a child, somehow it's okay for us as a society to just like keep walking by and not say anything, not do anything about it. It makes my blood boil, to say the least. I just have so much, I can't tell you, like, I wanted to like just protect that child. I just wanted to like hug her. I wanted to tell her that, hey, it's not okay what's being done to you right now. I love your mom. I know you love your mom too, but it's not okay. It's not okay for anyone to hit you ever, okay? And you are the most precious person like there is right now. Like, I hope you see how precious you are. And that's what I wanted to do with that child. Like I don't know. I just couldn't just stay there and not do anything. And I want to kind of ignite you with the same kind of passion and fire, so that if you were ever to witness this, maybe in your own family, maybe in public, maybe when you're on the bus, I want you to do something about it. You know, shifts happen in our culture only when people have spoken up. Until then, things have been the norm, right? Like, no one actually has, just because we're silent, when we are silent, we just offer our consent. We're telling people, hey, it's okay to do this. When we speak up is when we tell them, like, social sanction plays a big role. We tell them this is not okay. This is not something as a society we're okay with. We're not okay with promoting violence. We're not okay with people getting hit, right? And so I hope you say something about it, and make sure you are in a safe space as well. If it's like this huge person who you think might like attack you, I would encourage you to just call 911 or call the authorities instead of actually saying something. Make sure you're at a safe distance, and maybe tell the person, like, if there is an authority, like person in authority, maybe the owner of the store, or maybe in my case it was a bus driver, but the bus driver did nothing. Like I said, he encouraged her. In fact, he was like, that's how I disciplined my child as well, which was, again, I was appalled by that response that I got from the bus driver. But either way, I want you to speak up. I want you to, like, we can all make a change, right? This can be a ripple effect. So even if you're just one person, you're capable of starting a revolution. And I hope I've inspired you to do that. And, maybe call 911. And also, if you think that the person is open to dialogue, you can tell them, hey, like, I have kids as well, and I know how frustrating it can be when they say no, or when they have like an emotional outburst. But like, what helps long term is when you work with their emotions, kind of like having a healthy dialogue. If it's like a family friend for you, or if it's a relative, maybe opening their mind up to like a different perspective, doing your part. And that person is definitely, I think, going to be offended, like this person was. They were like, you are stepping on my boundary. This is my kid. You have no right to tell me how I treat my kid. Well, I am a human being, and your kid is a human being. And as just from that standpoint, I have every right to make sure that a fellow human being is not being subject to violence, right? So there are ways for you to assert yourself. So I hope, like, as a culture, as a society, we're able to make the needle move in the direction of more gentle parenting, of eradicating childism. Childism is where we look at kids as people who don't have like rights, and we don't see their perspective. So I want you to kind of open yourself up to look at the world through, from the perspective of the child, what they might be thinking about themselves. A 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, they don't have the capacity to like really depersonalize. They can't go, oh, well, my parent is having a hard day, which is why they're hitting me. No, they're going, in their minds, they're going, I'm a terrible person. I'm not good enough. I'm a piece of trash, which is why I get hit by everyone all the time. I'm not worthy. And so they grow up, and a lot of these kids, because of childhood trauma, they get into addictive behavior because they're constantly looking for ways to numb that pain. Imagine if you're going through life with this negative self-concept that I am no good, I'm unworthy. Just imagine what kind of thoughts would run in your head at all times. You go to interview for a job, you don't get accepted, you're gonna go, well, I was terrible as a kid and I'm terrible now as a person. You're going to take everything personally. And as an output of that, you're going to feel anxious. You're going to be depressed as a person. And then who do you go to? What do you go to like numb out those negative emotions? You go to substances, right? And that's how addiction kind of affects us as a society. And so we want to nip it all in the bud. And I think our childhood environment plays such a huge role. Like, sure, we might be predisposed genetically to certain addictions, but I think that the childhood environment plays the most important role in whether or not, you're going to go down a trajectory of like maybe addiction or unhealthy coping behaviors. So I hope I hope what I shared with you made sense. Well, this ended up being a super long video. Let me see if there was anything else I wanted to share. I hope I was able to kind of share with you all like the negative consequences of corporal punishment. I was able to like kind of urge you to do something about it as well. And if you're not a parent, and if you're just like, maybe a regular parent, a regular person, and there's no kids around you or anything, I would encourage you to work on your own healing. There is a child inside of you, right? That you have this responsibility to heal and to repair the relationship with. And I would invite you to do this work, especially also if you're a parent. And if you need help with this, I do one-on-one coaching, mentorship. So feel free to reach out to me. I'm also in the process of building a community, like a group coaching program where we hang out like once a week over Zoom, and I will be able to answer your questions. There will be fellow like-minded people who you can connect with, and it will be a no shame, judgment-free zone where you can just be yourself and you can just ask the most like dumbest questions and be like, this is how I really feel. You can just be super honest, and I'm not going to shame you. No one's going to shame you. I honestly believe that everyone in this world, we're all born with a good heart. It's just like when we go through life experiences and we get conditioned a certain way. For instance, when you get bullied, the chances are really high that you are going to end up being a bully when you grow up. So when I noticed someone, for instance, at mom, who was like extremely rude to me, by the way, she was like super rude, she was like angry. In that moment, I still had compassion for her because I could tell that that's probably how she got spoken to, by her parents or by maybe her teachers. And so I was able to kind of depersonalize it. And because now I have a positive self-concept, because I worked on my own healing, I have worked on healing my inner child wounds, because I got bullied too, right? As a kid, I was not taking it all personally, right? I was able to like hold space for where she was coming from. I was able to hold space for me. I was able to validate my worth, and I was able to tell myself, Nirosha, I've got you. This person is being rude, this person is being angry, but it doesn't mean a thing about you. They're just, having a very a dysregulated response. So I was able to hold space for myself. So I truly see like the good in everyone, and I help other people see the good in everyone. At the same time, yes, we have to be able to, express our needs, and we have to be able to show up for ourselves, be assertive. So if you're someone who struggles with like a negative self-concept, if you are struggling in life, you are in a pattern of like attracting unhealthy partners, or maybe you had childhood trauma growing up and you like love your parents, but you can't pinpoint like what exactly is still bothering you. And by the way, this is not a movement where we're shaming parents. This is not a movement where we're going, parents, you guys messed us up and now we hate you forever. No, this is a movement where we have compassion for everyone. We hold space. We have extra compassion for our parents. At the same time, we go, well, there are certain things they did that did leave wounds. We also acknowledge the wounds that were left behind, right? And we work on healing those wounds. And we still have love. We still have a lot of, we can still care for our parents, but we also care for ourselves. We also care for our inner child wounds. So I would invite you to get on this journey. It will not just help you, like I said, it will help your kids, it will help the greater collective. And it's just like a gift that doesn't stop giving. So I want to give you this gift, because I got coached, I got mentored by like some amazing people, and I'm in this space, and I want everyone to like kind of witness this or experience this in their own lives. And if you have had times in your life where you experienced corporal punishment, I would love to hear that. Please feel free to share your experiences. And if you want to get help, if you want one-on-one support, if you want the group support that I was talking about, where you want to like engage in healing and learn all the nuances about how to heal your inner child, how to heal your childhood wounds, or how to be more present with your child if they are just in a space where they're dysregulated and you don't know how to best respond to them, I would love to help you with that. So thank you so much. If you stuck around for so long, thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Happy healing. Bye.